So as David said, this sort of section really is a symposium. The idea really, and what we've been running for the last couple of years, is to get your input into what we would like to cover for the following year. So as David had mentioned, we've run a couple of working groups, and one of those working groups would just like to give a bit of an intro into what she's been up to, and that's Jill. So in a minute, I'll ask Jill. I'm just checking if she's actually online at the moment. Are you online, Jill? Just say yes if you are, or send me a message. No, I don't think she is at the moment.
I don't think she is.
Oh, okay, well, I can wait for Jill, and if she comes on, we'll present her material. But yeah, she was going to give a bit of an insight into software resilience and some asks for this year. If she doesn't join for any reason, then I will present that information. So maybe I'll open up to start with is obviously the whole purpose of the group is to try and influence what happens within the community, both within the BCS leadership organisation and BCS as a whole, but also with other organisations as well. So I guess interested, anybody got any thoughts on the sort of things you would like to see us talk about in terms of topics next year that would excite you, or things that you felt that we should extend that we covered this year? Anybody got any initial thoughts? No, a bit of silence, I guess. Okay, maybe I'll get things going. We had the topic on cyber security, as Dave mentioned, with the police force. We were going to do a book sort of summary. So there's been a number of books in this area. Are you sort of interested as a group in hearing from authors of books to sort of explain why they wrote the book, indeed the content they got in the book, and have the opportunity to ask them questions and potentially purchase the book at a discounted price? Would that be of interest to the committee or into the group? Any thoughts on that? No, Jackie, yeah, put your hand. I can see your hand up.
Yeah, I think that would be very interesting. I think we just have to be careful who we pick.
Say more, Jackie. Any particular any areas of interest that you would like to sort of hear on, that you'd like to?
AI.
Yeah, that is clearly a hot topic. Yeah, we've had the government obviously doing a lot on that recently, and yeah, we can certainly, yes. I know there's a number of books that have been progressing in that area, and I think even some of the software resilience work that Jill's been doing sort of has touched onto that as well. So that could be, yeah, we can have that as a good area. Okay, thanks, Jackie. Any other thoughts from anybody? Christian, I see you've got your hand up.
Sorry, long time listener, first time caller. So thank you for having me. So I think in terms of what would be great, I work in obviously technology field, as do you all. My specialist subject is within government. So I work within government. I'm the head of a major program here, looking at legacy technology across government and public sector. And I know from my experience, and I know from my sort of engagement, there is a big desire at the moment within public sector and private sector alike to look at modernizing and look at the lessons we can learn from each other in terms of legacy modernization. So not just moving everything to cloud, not just moving everything to ground commercial services in our context, but actually how do we tackle the systemic challenges around legacy? And I guess thoughts for an event, thoughts for a roundtable or legacy fireside chats or something along that sort of line would be really useful. And I think would be useful to quite a few, even if you're on the peripheries of sort of managing legacy technology within your estate, within your portfolio. Actually, the subject is really rich and deep. It doesn't just involve technology problems. It involves big, chunky, hairy, policy problems, operational problems, financial problems, all sort of in a big melting pot of why can't we get rid of this legacy technology within our estate? So I think for me, that would be quite an interesting thing to lead out on for the Digital Leaders Group, and particularly BCS as well, being at sort of center a lot of this, these big conversations we're having across industry. So that would be my thoughts. But I equally like the thought around book reviews and getting the authors to come and present. I think that's a fantastic idea as well.
Yeah, that's really useful, Christian. And I think one of the things that I don't know if you've been able to partake in any of our working groups in the past. No?
Oh, yeah, I've only just joined the Digital Leaders Forum last week.
Right.
This is my first, again, long time listener, first time caller.
Well, the working groups are there. So I'll just maybe explain what the working groups are for some of the folks like yourself that have only just joined. So they are an opportunity where we get sort of like-minded people that are interested in talking about a subject. So not necessarily all of the members in the forum to sort of really talk about an idea. So as it says, it's a working group. Yeah. So with the concept that you could actually take it in many different ways. So you could just meet as a group, discuss, talk about things, help each other out, or you could do potentially output in terms of a white paper. You could do a presentation. You could even do a conference. You could even interface with other people, other groups. So I think if that's something that you would be interested in, that might be an angle that we could do it for a working group, first of all, see if there's enough interest, and then you could extend it out. Okay. Okay. I see, Panikosia, you've got your hand up, and welcome to the committee.
Hello, nice to see you all. I'm very happy to have joined the committee. Just to continue a bit on the thought of the previous colleague, I think it's also important to put on the table green IT and sustainability. It's been the buzzword for the last 2 years at least. It has been on the forefront for initiative not only for modernization, but also in relation to adjacent domains like energy efficiency and building efficiency. So I think maybe to table actions in the green IT field could also be worthwhile as leaders, as future leaders, in conjunction with modernization.
Yeah, that's a good subject. And sustainability, green IT, the challenges of financing it versus the purpose of having evidence that you're following certain codes. I've come from the oil and gas industry, so you can imagine the changes that have to occur there. Yeah, that's definitely a good subject. So I'll jot that one down. And again, I think we'll start these off potentially as working groups or working conversations, and then see where they lead, who's interested in being part of them, and then see where we go from there. So yeah, pretty good subject matters. Anybody got anything to add? Anything you want to sort of mention with respect to those, or anything else you'd like to consider? Well, one subject that was sort of close to me, because I was leading the working group on it, was the future CEO. So we had it was a working group that I led last year, where we talked about what it means to be a CEO of an organisation, recognizing the fact that technology has become very much forefront of many businesses, and what does a CEO need to know, or indeed how could a CIO become a CEO of an organisation? I recognise there's a number of members of the IT Leaders Forum that were part of that discussion, but we didn't really finish it off. So I'm very mindful of that. So that's something I'll probably be taking up again next year as well. Probably do a summary first of all of the discussions we've had so far, and then relaunch that as a discussion. So again, if anybody's interested in sharing their knowledge, or just would like to know what it takes to maybe get involved in an area that's not just purely IT, and how more and more of our roles are very business focused. So that'll be potentially one for next year. Okay, I guess anybody got anything else before I mention another subject? No. So one thing David did touch on was we tried to run a few hybrid events this year, and at the beginning of the year we had some that weren't that successful. So one of the challenges we have is that we book them and people register for the events, And then for more reasons than others, they don't turn up. So, you know, we obviously we commit to booking the room, which then locks it out for other people. And we sometimes put on refreshments as well. So we obviously want to be accurate in terms of the event. I guess I'm interested to know what people think about hybrid events or face-to-face events. Do you think they're not inclusive enough and we shouldn't run them and they're a big no-no? Or do you think we should give it a go again and run some more events either from the BCS office in London, or if there are people who are a bit more remote and they've got a access to a facility in another location, that we run one more remote, say in the north or the Midlands or even Scotland or Wales, or Ireland, to that matter. Jackie.
Yeah, I have a dilemma about hybrid events, because if you're online, you don't get to participate in quite the same way at all. On the other hand, is that hybrid events do allow us to hold the kind of core bit, not just in London. And I think some of our members, certainly in the North and Scotland, would be very grateful to have a live event themselves that other people can come in online.
Anybody who's not in the South that has got a comment or observation? You can speak up. No, something else to admit. No? Yeah, so I think that, again, something to think about. But again, obviously, if there's not the demand, then we don't do it. So, and that's true of a face-to-face or a hybrid. So, yeah. Oh, David, you got a question?
Yeah, I was going to say this is perhaps a good time to ask a question. How would people feel about us making a charge for events? Because one of the problems with no-shows is that people don't lose any money by not showing. They'll book a place, and then if they don't turn up, there's no penalty. We've avoided it so far, but that's an alternative solution, of course. Does anyone have a view on that?
Yeah, I agree with you, David. But I think it's very difficult to do that for hybrid events, because in my experience, getting people to pay to come online is sort of outside of most people's experience at the moment. Jonathan, there's a couple of interesting comments on the chat. Don't know if you've seen them.
From Christian, from Christian Daniel. So Christian said, yeah, depending upon the outcome. And I think agree. Yeah, Christian, there's no point meeting face to face if it doesn't add anything in addition to when it's remote. So I think, yeah, I think some of the working groups were very effective in that manner. So certainly Jill in hers has had a couple of face to faces where she really wanted to go into quite a lot of depth and detail. And I think, you know, that's something that is certainly hard to do when we're remote. So she found that very useful. So again, I think, yeah, and again, when people have made the commitment to travel, you know, they could potentially spending up to 4 or 5 hours of their time to get to an event. You don't want half an hour of an event which you feel you've not actually achieved anything from. So I think, yeah, that's very, very important, Christian. And then, yeah, particularly, yeah, you said the same, hybrids, yeah. They are more inclusive. Obviously, you know, completely remotes are super inclusive because it's everybody. I think the challenge we have with a hybrid is, and I think you touched on it a little bit, Jackie, is how people in the room can sometimes get a different position on the activity than those that are remote, especially if all the speakers happen to be in the room as well. So we have tried it where we've had some speakers in the room, some speakers not remote, which sort of helps a little bit. But I think that's something we just have to be mindful of. And again, we'll obviously look at it and make sure that we can do it in the best effective way. Okay, thank you. That's some good input. Anything else that's come to mind of things that we should focus on for next year? So maybe I'll open one up. Oh, Christian, you put your hand up again.
Sorry, I was just fiddling with my controls, trying to remember how to use Zoom again. I think just on David's point around the charging, I think it's a fair challenge. You know, if you don't tax people, if you don't put it in the pocket, then the event sometimes loses that significance in terms of, oh, I better do that, otherwise I'm going to be, you know, financially poorer. So I do think it does that. However, I do think it has to be, if it is a paid for event, it has to be fairly notable in somebody's diary in terms of what the content is, and it has to be sort of a destination for them to come, with that in mind. So it has to be a proper reason for going. Whereas I think sometimes the more virtual events can be more inclusive, because you can get people that just want to dip their toe in, people that just want to have a look, hear what's going on, that wouldn't necessarily be incentivized fully to put their hands in their pockets and go to a paid for event. I think there's a fine line, and I appreciate what you're saying, David. And I think it's a fair challenge. I've had similar conversations about something else a couple of weeks ago. But I think, again, depending on the event and the nature of the event, size and scale and that sort of thing, and the outcome of that event, I think then probably dictates whether it should meet a threshold to then be a chargeable event, or whether it's a free virtual event. I think that just my considerations around that point. Thank you.
No, that's good, Chris. Maybe I'll just add to that before I ask the next speaker to talk, and just remind people of something that we discussed this year, and that's around who we include to be speakers at events. So one of the things we try to avoid as a group is that we show any sort of sponsorship or recognition to certain companies. Let's say we want to be basically non-biased in what we do. So there are some institutions or organisations that will run an event and they'll bring in a lot of, say, some high-performing speakers that are paid to be at that event. That's not something that we want to do as a forum, and that's something we don't adopt. So it's useful just reminding people of that as well. So again, if we do run an event, we run it for the members, and it is completely, we're not trying to sell anything, and we're not trying to get anybody to sell anything to you. So yeah, just so you're aware of that. All right, so I've got an interesting one. U112191. That's an interesting name. Over to you.
Yeah, sorry, it's my staff ID. I'm using my work machine. It's the first time I've used my work machine for these sort of events. I didn't notice that before. Anyway, on the charging, kind of linking back to past events, was that you had an event last year or this year for with the Enterprise Architect Group. And the Enterprise Architect Specialist Group do charge for their conference. And what they do is they have split pricing. So it's like a nominal amount of money for a member and you're joining online. It was £20, I think, for their conference this year. So maybe we could touch base with those, the Enterprise Architect Group, see how they do the charging structure. I think the one thing to remember is that if the event is going to be recorded, it would be free on the YouTube channel anyway.
Yeah.
And
sorry, remind me just saying your name.
Michael.
Michael. Yeah, no, I think you're right, Michael. And I think, obviously it may be recorded on YouTube, and then there's obviously what do you get for being at the event in versus not being at the event. So it's obviously you get the ability to have the Q&A afterwards. So sometimes those are not recorded. Yeah. So yeah, that's good. That's a good one to look at. So yeah, we'll touch base with it. Are you part of the Enterprise Architecture Group, or is it just something?
I am, yeah.
Okay. All right, Michael. Yeah.
They've had a change of chair and secretary, so it'll probably be worthwhile reaching out to them.
Yeah. Okay. All right. Thank you. All right.
Jill has joined us.
All right. Excellent. Hi, Jill. You there, Jill?
Both visible and audible. Hi.
Hello. Hi, Jill. Good
Hi, John.
Congratulations on joining the committee in a full.
Yes, sorry, I just always have a meeting at this time with an old friend in Nebraska, and the time zones are such that I like to keep to it because.
That's okay. Yeah, no, we've had some good conversation, Jill. Obviously, talking about some of the things we've been doing and some opportunities for next year. But like you said, you put together a few slides where you'd like to just give a bit of an update on software resilience and some requests that you have. So do you want to share?
Yes, if I'm allowed to share my screen.
Certainly.
Host has disabled participant screen sharing, it's telling me.
Oh, that's no good.
I can't share my screen.
We can make. We should be able to make you host, or I've got the slides, in fact, so I can share the slides for you if you want.
If you could do that, since you have disabled me, please enable the slides. Thank you.
It's okay. I've got the latest one, Jill.
So the purpose of this is to ask for help, basically. So I'll show some slides, and on the second last slide, I indicate areas in which help would be very welcome.
Yes.
So,
You can see.
yes, yeah. Yep, that's it. Okay. So what I thought it would be worth doing is just, indicating that when we've been talking about service resilience for a couple of years, and it's become pretty mainstream. There are government edicts on resilience, and so we're aligning with that. A little bit about why service resilience, a little bit about what the working group's done over the last couple of years, and then talking about where help is needed in 2024. And there is a whole slide which is links to reports, webinars, and blogs, which I'm not sure, Jonathan, what's the best way of sharing that, whether this can go up on a website or something, or we can't really put it in the chat. Don't know. Anyway, we'll see about making it available. So the next slide is one that we used at the round table that we held recently with the National Preparedness Commission and the Business Continuity Institute. And it explained that about a year ago now, the UK government published a resilience framework, and they built it around three fundamental principles. We need a shared understanding of the risks we face. We focus on prevention and preparation, and resilience requires a whole of society approach. And we squirreled down through all the documents that followed this, and we came up with there is no understanding, no shared understanding across UK and wider of the risks to resilience from software failure. And it's just a complete absence. We can't, it just isn't there. So what to do about it? Well, on the next slide, we explain why it's a problem. The problem is that digital systems fail. They fail because they're complex, and there is an increasing number and extent of service outages due to software failure. That's statistically, anecdotally accurate, but there's no data. And one of the points we keep making is we need more data on this, because the costs are felt across the economy by all sorts of individuals and consumers. There is no one place that you can go to say, what is the cost of this set of software failures? There's more interest, as you know, on AI. There's a lot of worry about cyber attacks. Government has expressed an interest, I'm not sure what they've done about it, in lessons from preparation from the COVID pandemic. And of course, we just keep having a tsunami of events, Capita losing data and being down for several months, the NATS failure, TransPennine Express had software failures and ended up being nationalized. The story goes on. So there are technical trends that mean that the failures are more frequent, but there's also a social trend, which is that more people are using services delivered through software, which means service outages have got a bigger impact than they used to have. And so we decided that we were going to focus on improving the resilience of services delivered through software. So we've moved away from thinking about software components, and we've started thinking about the impacts on the economy and the users of these services. So we're focused on services and keeping the lights on, basically. On the next slide, these are the things we've been doing over the last couple of years. And interestingly, the whole activity started 2 years ago at this very event, the symposium following the ITLF AGM. So this is a 2-year anniversary for it. And we almost have our final report on the website. However, we ran into a technical problem, which the web developers can't explain, which means that the report is fine when it's in a PDF, but it's corrupted when it's on the website. So it's not yet on the website, but other reports are. We've had roundtables with reports on websites. We've published loads of articles. We've done webinars. We've done a submission to DSIT. We've written a couple of policy briefs that are with headquarters. And because we've met our terms of reference, we dissolved ourselves at our last meeting on the 15th of November. So there is no longer a software resilience working group. The next slide says that the work to date has highlighted that there are really 2 work streams. One is what to do about service resilience training and certification for IT and risk professionals. Now, this is really important because when, for instance, we started talking to the National Preparedness Commission, Lord Toby Harris, who's his chairman, said, look, yeah, I can see it's a problem, Gio, but who is qualified to do something about it? And at the time, we didn't have an answer. So this work stream, the service resilience for IT and risk professionals, is all about building that community. And it's all about CPD and certification. It's about people working on standards bodies. It's about postgraduate university qualifications. It's about linking through to BCS thought leadership in FTAG. It's linking through to university research through Professor Liz Varga. It's about deciding how to cooperate or otherwise with ITIL and ISARCA, who of course do compete in some ways with BCS in terms of product IT training. This work stream is being handed over to a co-chair set up where Rachel Elliott from the Business Continuity Institute and Steve Sands from the BCS ISSG are going to co-chair. And they have got support from the BCS Vice President for, I think it's qualifications and standards, who is an excellent ex-IBM guy called Paul Martinenko. And so he is going to be helping them get this through. It would be really good for somebody in the ITLF to act as a link to that and, you know, keep tabs on it and offer assistance as needed. So that's one volunteer that would be very welcome. The second work stream is what to do about the C-suite and what to do about public engagement. And this is less well articulated, but it's the area where ITLF have to lead because there's nobody else in BCS who can lead here. And so again, looking for somebody to work alongside me to articulate the offering, get a project underway, maybe go and talk to the business schools about management education. So that's the second volunteer needed. And then the third volunteer is about public awareness. We really do need to have a joint plan with the National Preparedness Commission, Business Continuity Institute, run out of BCS headquarters, but they'll need support from ITLF. And so ideally, it would be great if during the discussion or afterwards, three people might think this was a fun project to get engaged in. So the last slide I will just flash up because it's all the links and we can circulate it afterwards, as Jonathan said in the chat. So the pool's open. maybe back to the previous slide, if you would, Jonathan.
Now you're challenging me.
Backwards. There we go.
Yeah.
Right. Okay. And so I guess, you know, how would you like to encourage the discussion, Jonathan? What do you think we might do?
Yeah, so well, I guess if anybody got any reaction to what Jill's had to share here, anything you want to offer at this immediate time?
Well, Christian's put something on the chat. Let me have a look. Okay. I think that's really helpful. That is probably more for the IT and risk professionals. And so I wonder whether, Christian, you might either volunteer to be the link through to the SR for IT and risk professionals in an ongoing way, or send the link through to Steve Sands. Is there any chance you might volunteer to take an interest in a more long-term way?
I certainly, I'm certainly happy to facilitate conversations back into my colleagues here at CDDO. In terms of my long-term commitments and engagements, I guess I have to see what's absolutely required, and then take a view on that, given other constraints at the moment. But I'm really happy to play a facilitating role in that, to link up, because I completely agree with you. There is so much to do within this service resilience space, both from a public sector perspective and industry, private sector perspective as well. And there's probably not enough written about it. There's probably not enough done about it in our profession. So more than happy to link up. And again, I know that colleagues of mine are looking at sort of the top 75 government services, for example, around, and some of the big barriers and some of the big blockers around that, sort of getting that escalated, getting that moving for various government departments. So I'm really happy if you send me the contact details offline. I can help facilitate that for sure.
That would be tremendously helpful, because I think it's at the stage where we can see what the training has in terms of headings of modules. We've got the product people in BCS prepared to start in February designing this. And if we can possibly, using government links, get some pilots of that would be magic, you know. And also, of course, getting inputs before we get the training modules in place in terms of what's missing in the current thing. Because in one of the reports where the link's on the last slide, we have got an outline. I think it's on page 42 of what a course might look like. And people are saying, this is great, this is a great start. But it's a start. And so inputs to it, first pilots, etc. Brilliant offer. Thank you, Christian. And so I will take an action to do an e-introduce of you to Steve Sands.
Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Thank you.
Yeah, so Jill, perhaps on the C-suite side, we can have a look at the work we did that I mentioned earlier on the CIO activities, because one of our next actions was actually to reach out to some of the business groups, either like finance groups, business accountancy, institute of directors, to say how can we influence some of the discussion around IT in business, and maybe this is a good specific example that we could use to say, look, this is why I want to engage with you. So I'll touch base with you on that and see if that's an opportunity.
That's tremendous, because you know, what we've done with the original working group is so many people have provided links that have made it just go so fast. I mean, we were just really quite stunned at how fast we've got things done. You know, in a couple of years, it's sort of suddenly on the agenda. You know, maybe we were just swimming with the tide, but you know, that's fine. If we're swimming with the tide, let's see if we can swim with the tide on the C-suite and public engagement front as well. That would be great. Thank you, Jonathan.
Yeah, so I think obviously, Jill, before you joined, we had some good discussions about potential topics for next year as well. So I think obviously this is nice. Got a couple of leads. We talked about AI, some government interaction activities as well, and then some green IT sustainability and as possible topics. So I think there's a number of good leads there for us to start thinking about for 2024 in terms of events. I guess before I go on to the next sort of anything else that people want to just share with Jill? Anybody got any final words for Jill that you want to discuss? No, I can move on.
I mean, I guess one thing I might say in addition is that I think the IT and risk professionals group are probably wanting to do something like a joint event with the enterprise architect, who ought to be part of this discussion as well. But I think, again, that's going to need possibly help from ITLF, because I think that ISSG is much more a traditional specialist group with far less sort of structure and momentum than we've got.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and actually Michael, who's a member of the Enterprise Architect Group as well, touched on a topic earlier about charging, and so we've got another question to go out to them as well, so maybe we'll ask the two questions at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
All right, okay, very good. No, and I guess just what I wanted to share was, so typically at the beginning of the year, we sort of do a little bit of an event which looks back at what was achieved in the previous year. So not in terms of the ITLF itself, but what were some of the leading activities that sort of stirred up the world of IT and of business. So if anybody's got anything they would like to share or would like to present in that topic, we will start to put together an event onto that subject matter, probably the first January, February of next year. So it's all about things that caused a stir or look to improve the IT and business environment. So I think we touched on AI earlier. That was clearly one topic that's been quite topical in terms of events this year. But anything else you'd want to share, drop me a note or an email, and obviously we can see what we can put together. And if you're interested in speaking on a subject of any nature, then do let me know as well, because we'll start to put that together. Hi, Joe, you got hand up again.
Yeah, could I put in arising from our disappointment earlier in the autumn, whether it's worth thinking about trying to set up a joint panel discussion between ITLF and BCS Women?
That's a good idea. Yes. Yeah.
I'm willing to offer to see whether we can make that work.
Yeah. Okay. Well, thank you. That was good. I think that goes for any of the. So I'd say that some of the minority groups that are involved in the BCS. We want to see how, if there are groups that feel they're not represented or haven't got maybe a voice within the BCS, or feel that they're underrepresented, then we are happy to talk to those groups. It's actually quite good to engage, because clearly this group is all about IT leadership. So if we can't provide leadership and direction for some of those areas, then we are clearly losing out. And we don't want what happened to us earlier in the year to happen again. Quite frankly, we've learned from that, and we will continue to look at ways of engaging better with the BCS as a whole, so that people feel stimulated by the events that we put on. And sometimes we're open to some controversial topics as well. That's being an IT leader is not always plain sailing. So that's why we're leaders. If it was easy to lead, we wouldn't be doing it. So it's all about some of those challenges as well.